The void of space stretched endlessly before Commander Tejo as he stood on the observation deck of the Mirai flagship, the Eternal Dominion. Stars glittered like scattered gems against the black canvas, many surrounded by worlds that now served the collective. His tall, slender frame cast a long shadow across the polished floor as he watched the main view screen displaying their next target. 3 centuries of conquest without a single defeat, Tejo said, his voice carrying a hint of boredom. The bioneural implants at his temples pulsed with a soft blue glow, connecting him to the ship's vast network of information. "It grows tiresome, doesn't it, Jinwoo?" His second-in-command approached with a data tablet. Jinwoo's skin had the same pale blue tint as all pure-blooded Mirai, though his was marked with the achievement tattoos of 50 successful planetary absorptions. "The reports on the human colonies are complete," Jinwoo said, handing over the tablet. "Their technology is quaint." Tejo scrolled through the intelligence gathered by their long-range probes. The human settlements were scattered across a dozen planets in a small corner of the galaxy's outer arm. Their ships relied on primitive combustion engines and rudimentary faster-than-light technology that the Mirai had surpassed 8 generations. "Ergo, look at these defense systems," Tejo chuckled, showing Jinwoo an image of orbital platforms around one of the larger colonies. "They're still using particle beam weapons. My great-grandmother wrote her thesis on why those became obsolete." The massive world ship hummed around them, a perfect blend of biological and mechanical engineering. The walls seemed to breathe, micro-adjustments constantly happening as the living ship maintained optimal conditions. Crew members moved with purpose, their movements synchronized like components in a well-oiled machine. Their largest military outpost has fewer than 10,000 soldiers, Jinwoo noted, and their communication systems suggest disorganized command structures. Each colony operates with significant autonomy. Tejo nodded, remembering similar patterns from dozens of previous conquests. Species that expanded before developing unified. Governance were always the easiest to absorb. Divide and conquer, though the Mirai rarely needed to divide anymore. Their mere arrival accomplished that. "What resources do they offer?" Tejo asked, though it hardly mattered. The collective took everything, regardless of immediate value. Jinwoo pulled up another screen. "Water-rich worlds, significant mineral, deposits and—" He paused, highlighting a data point. "Unusually diverse biological specimens. Their genetic adaptability indexes are higher than we typically encounter." This caught Tejo's attention. The collective always sought genetic material to improve their bioships and enhance their own capabilities. Perhaps this conquest wouldn't be completely routine after all. "Send the standard fleet configuration," Tejo decided after brief consideration. 12 world ships should be more than sufficient. A junior officer approached, bowing slightly, before speaking. "Commander, should we dispatch science vessels as well if their biological diversity is of interest?" Tejo waved dismissively. "No need, standard protocol is adequate. We'll harvest what we need after the resistance is eliminated." He turned back to the viewport. "How long have these humans been in space?" "Just over 3 centuries, Jinwoo answered. "Their expansion has been slow but steady. Internal conflicts limited their progress for many cycles. They fight among themselves." Tejo raised an eyebrow. "How wasteful." The massive command center bustled with activity as orders were transmitted to the waiting fleet. The world ships, massive, oval structures that dwarfed even the largest human settlements, began moving into formation. Each one carried enough firepower to level continents and enough troops to occupy an entire planet. Tejo walked to the strategic display, watching as red markers indicated the 12 world ships breaking from the main collective and charting courses for human space. "Estimated time to first contact?" 3 standard days, replied the navigation officer. "Their outer defense sensors will detect us approximately 6 hours before arrival." "Perfect," Tejo nodded. "That gives them just enough time to panic. I've always found that fear improves the efficiency of conquest. Less resistance when the time comes." As the fleet departed, Tejo returned to his private chambers. The walls pulsed with the same living energy as the rest of the ship, adjusting to his mood and preferences. He pulled up historical records of previous conquests, idly, scrolling through images of now extinct civilizations. "Computer, Display any unusual characteristics of human military tactics, he commanded. The screen filled with battle simulations, all of which ended the same way: swift Mirai victory. The only noteworthy item was a peculiar human tendency to celebrate historical last stands, battles where small forces faced overwhelming odds. How strange, Taeho mused. They honor defeat. He dismissed the information as cultural curiosity with no tactical relevance. As the days passed, Taeho barely monitored the fleet's progress. There was no need. The operation was standard and the outcome certain. When Jinwoo reported that the world ships had reached the edge of human space, Taeho simply nodded. The first human colony world is in range, Jinwoo announced. Shall I order immediate conquest or the standard warning message? Send the message, Taeho replied. Let's follow protocol, even for such an insignificant species. Little did Commander Taeho know that at the edge of human space, an encounter awaited that would shatter 3 centuries of Mirai certainty. The USS Thermopylae, a single human warship, floated in the darkness. The first and last line of defense against what had always been an unstoppable tide. Captain Yunji Ortega stood with perfect posture on the bridge of the USS Thermopylae, hands clasped behind her back as she stared at the main view screen. The vast emptiness of space seemed peaceful, but she knew better. Warning lights had been flashing for the past hour, massive objects approaching at speeds that defied conventional propulsion systems. 12 vessels, Captain, reported Lieutenant Kang from the tactical station. His fingers danced across the console, pulling up detailed scans. Configuration matches intelligence reports on Mirai world ships. Jeonji nodded, her expression betraying nothing of the weight resting on her shoulders. The Thermopylae floated alone at humanity's doorstep, a single warship against what had consumed countless civilizations. All hands to battle stations, she ordered, her voice steady. Activate Protocol Omega. Throughout the ship, crew members moved with practiced efficiency. Unlike the frantic scrambling one might expect, there was a calm determination in their actions. They had trained for this moment for years. Protocol Omega activated, confirmed Commander Sumin, the first officer. A series of lights on her console shifted from red to green. All systems nominal. The bridge fell silent as they waited. The Thermopylae wasn't particularly impressive to look at, an older model warship that had seen better days. Its hull bore scars from previous engagements, and its visible weapon systems were standard fare for human vessels. Incoming transmission, announced Communications Officer Dae-hyun. It's broadcasting on all frequencies. On screen, Yunji ordered. The image of Commander Tae-ho filled the view screen. His blue skin and glowing neural implants were exactly as intelligence had described. He spoke with the casual confidence of someone who had never known defeat. Attention, human vessel. This is Commander Tae-ho of the Mirai Collective. Your species' territory is now under our protection and guidance. Surrender your vessel and prepare your colonies for peaceful absorption. Resistance is both futile and illogical. We bring technological advancement and evolutionary purpose. The message continued with promises of minimal casualties if cooperation was immediate. Several bridge officers exchanged glances, but no one spoke until the transmission ended. They always say the same thing, Yunji remarked, almost amused. You'd think after conquering hundreds of worlds they'd update their speech. She nodded to Dae-hyun. Open a channel. When the connection established, Yunji stepped forward. She straightened her uniform jacket and smiled, not the nervous smile of someone facing doom, but the confident expression of someone about to reveal a long-held secret. Mirai Collective, this is Captain Yunji Ortega of the Earth Defense Force. Vessel Thermopylae, we've been expecting your arrival. She paused deliberately before continuing. We stand ready to negotiate terms of your surrender. On the Mirai command ship, Tae-ho stared at the human captain in disbelief before breaking into laughter. He turned to his officers, gesturing at the screen. The arrogance of primitive species never ceases to amaze me, he said. 1 vessel against 12 world ships, and they speak of our surrender. Jinwoo, normally stoic, allowed himself a small smile. Perhaps they misunderstood our message? No, Tae-ho replied, studying the human captain more carefully. This is psychological posturing, fascinating but ultimately pointless. He turned to another officer. Ha-Jun, take your destroyer and eliminate this annoyance. Make it quick, but visible. A demonstration for their home world. Ha-Jun bowed slightly. It will be done, Commander. Back on the Thermopylae, tactical screens showed one Mirai vessel breaking formation and advancing toward them. They're sending a single destroyer, reported Lieutenant Kang. Power signatures indicate weapons charging. Yunji took her seat in the captain's chair. Just as expected, they always send one ship first. Tactical overconfidence. Their first weakness. She tapped a command into her armrest console. Helm, prepare evasive pattern Theta 3. Weapons target their primary propulsion node, but hold fire until my command. The crew acknowledged her orders with practiced efficiency. There was tension on the bridge, certainly, but not panic, more like athletes preparing for a championship match. Mirai destroyer approaching weapons range in 30 seconds, Kang announced. Let them fire first, Yunji said calmly. Remember your training, this is what we prepared for. The Mirai vessel fired, a brilliant stream of energy cutting across space toward the Thermopylae. By all known physics, the human ship should have been vaporized instantly. Instead, at the last possible moment, the Thermopylae moved. Not the lumbering turn of a conventional spacecraft, but a sudden impossible shift in position. The energy beam passed through empty space. On the Mirai destroyer, Ha-Jun stared in disbelief. Impossible! No vessel that size can maneuver like that, his tactical officer frantically recalibrated. Firing again, sir. 3 more energy beams lanced out, each one meeting nothing but void as the human ship seemed to anticipate each attack, moving with precision that defied the laws of physics as the Mirai understood them. Captain, said Sumin on the Thermopylaes. Bridge. Their shields are adjusting, they're scanning our hull composition, Yunji nodded. Time to show them trick number 2. Weapons free, Lieutenant Kang. The Thermopylaes' response was subtle at first. No dramatic energy weapons or missile barrages. Instead, several small ports opened along its hull, releasing devices barely larger than shuttlecraft. What are those? Demanded Ha-Jun, as his sensors detected the objects. Scan them. Before his crew could respond, the devices disappeared from sensors entirely, only to reappear surrounding his vessel. Phase displacement technology, gasped his science officer. But that's theoretical. The devices pulsed in unison. No explosion, no energy beam, just a ripple effect that passed through the Mirai destroyer's supposedly impenetrable shields, like they weren't there. Ship-wide systems failed instantly. Backup power engaged only to fail seconds later. Ha-Jun watched in horror as his mighty warship, capable of laying waste to entire continents, drifted powerless in space. Signal the fleet, he shouted, but communications were dead. On the Thermopylaes, Bridge Yunji stood once more. Target their primary reactor. One shot, clean and quick. A single beam, not particularly impressive looking, lanced out from the human vessel, passing through the disabled destroyer's hull and striking its reactor. Core with surgical precision. The Mirai ship erupted in a brilliant flash, then collapsed in on itself as emergency containment measures failed. Silence fell across both the human ship and the remaining Mirai fleet. What had just happened defied all their battle simulations and centuries of experience. On his command ship, Taeho gripped his chair arm so tightly his knuckles whitened. What just happened? Jinwoo stared at the tactical display showing only debris where Ha-Jun's destroyer had been. Sir, the human vessel shows no signs of damage. Their defense systems, we've never seen anything like this. Taeho's mind raced. For the first time in his career, perhaps in Mirai history, they faced a technological mystery. A primitive species had just destroyed one of their destroyers in less than 2 minutes. All vessels, he commanded, his voice betraying the slightest tremor. Full attack formation, converge on the human ship. Use all weapons, now. As the 11 remaining world ships moved into attack position, Captain Yunji Ortega allowed herself a small, grim smile. And now, she said softly, the real test begins. Fire bloomed across the darkness of space, as another Mirai worldship erupted into a spectacular explosion. The massive vessel, over 2 kilometers long and bristling with weapons that could level cities, broke apart in slow motion, secondary detonations rippling through its hull as escape pods launched in every direction. "Worldship Eternal Dominion has been destroyed," reported Junho, his voice barely above a whisper. The tactical officer's hands trembled as he updated the display. 6 red markers had already winked out, representing Mirai vessels that had been in service for centuries, each one thought to be invincible. Commander Taeho stood rigid, his face illuminated by the emergency lighting that now bathed the command center. "That's impossible," he said, though the evidence before him proved otherwise. 6 worldships. 6. The remaining 5 Mirai vessels maintained their attack formation, pouring enough firepower into the human warship to shatter a small moon. Energy beams, quantum torpedoes, and gravitational distortion waves, weapons that had brought countless civilizations to their knees, all focused on a single target. Yet somehow, the USS Thermopylae remained. "Their hull composition is adapting," said the science officer, bewilderment clear in her voice. "It appears to be some kind of quantum-entangled lattice. Our energy weapons are being absorbed and redistributed throughout their structure." Jinwoo, normally the calmest presence on the bridge, showed signs of stress. "We've lost 60% of our fleet to a single human vessel." "How is this possible?" Their technological level was assessed as pre-galactic standard. On the view screen, the Thermopylae executed another series of maneuvers that should have torn any conventional ship apart. Its engines glowed with an eerie blue light as it weaved between the massive Mirai vessels, its point defense systems picking off incoming torpedoes with perfect precision. "Launch the dimensional shift," ordered Taeho. "All remaining vessels." This was their ultimate defensive measure, a technology that phased their ships partially out of normal space-time, making them virtually immune to conventional attacks. In 3 centuries of conquest, no species had ever penetrated a dimensional shift. A ripple passed through space as the 5 worldships seemed to blur, becoming translucent and ghostly. Taeho allowed himself a moment of relief. Now they could regroup and, "Sir, they're still targeting us." Junho's voice cracked with disbelief. "Their weapons systems are compensating somehow. Impossible." The word echoed in Taeho's mind as he watched the Thermopylae adjust its attack. The human ship released a new wave of the small devices they had used against Hajun's destroyer, but these were different, emitting a strange pulse that seemed to anchor the Mirai ships back into normal space. "Phase lock technology," muttered the science officer. "They found a counter to our dimensional shifting." Another world ship erupted into flames as a precisely targeted shot from the Thermopylae pierced its now vulnerable reactor core. The ship's death throes sent debris hurtling in all directions, forcing the remaining Mirai vessels to adjust their positions. 48 hours into what should have been a routine conquest, and the mighty Mirai collective was on the defensive. Damage. "To report on the human vessel," Taeho demanded, searching desperately for any sign of weakness. Jinwoo studied the sensor readings. "They've sustained damage to their outer hull layers, and one of their weapon arrays appears to be offline. But their primary systems remain functional." Taeho slammed his fist against a console. "They can't be invincible. Nothing is invincible." In his 3 decades of service, Taeho had never faced defeat. The concept itself was foreign to the Mirai. Their history books contained no word for it. Yet here they were, watching their invincible fleet being systematically dismantled by what should have been an insignificant opponent. "Sir," Jinwoo said hesitantly, "perhaps we should attempt communication again." "Offer terms?" "Terms?" Taeho spun to face his second-in-command. "The Mirai Collective does not negotiate with lesser species." Even as the words left his mouth, another world ship fell to the human vessel's impossible weapons. 4 left. Just 4 world ships against 1 damaged, but still operational human warship. "Commander," said the communications officer, "we're receiving a transmission from the human vessel." Taeho hesitated, then nodded. On screen, Captain Yunji Ortega appeared, her uniform slightly disheveled, a small cut visible on her forehead. Behind her, the bridge of the Thermopylae showed signs of damage. Exposed wiring, emergency lighting, crew members working frantically at their stations. But her expression remained resolute. "Commander Tejo," she said, her voice steady despite the chaos around her, "your fleet has fought admirably, but this battle is unnecessary. I repeat our offer. Discuss terms for your withdrawal from human space." Tejo felt a surge of anger. "You dare to speak as if you hold the advantage? Your ship is damaged. Our reinforcements will arrive within days." Yunji's expression didn't change. "Yes, we're damaged, and yes, your reinforcements will eventually arrive. But ask yourself this. If one human warship can do this to your fleet, what do you think waits for you deeper in our territory?" The question hung in the air, uncomfortable and disturbing. Tejo had been so focused on the battle that he hadn't considered the implications. If this was merely the first line of human defense, he made another attempt to read the minds of the human crew, a standard tactic that allowed Mirai commanders to anticipate enemy actions. As before, he encountered what felt like a solid wall. No thoughts, no emotions, nothing leaked through. It was as if the humans had evolved specific defenses against the Mirai's telepathic abilities. "You've somehow shielded your minds," Tejo said accusingly. Yunji smiled slightly. "We've had time to prepare, Commander. More time than you might think." The battle continued through another day and night. The Thermopylae suffered increasing damage, its once smooth hull now scarred and blackened, several sections exposed to space. Yet it continued fighting with the same precision and determination. On the 72nd hour of battle, the 8th Mjerai world ship fell, then the 9th. By the dawn of the 4th day, only 2 remained, Tejo's command vessel and 1 support ship. In his private quarters, Tejo stared at his reflection. The neural implants at his temples pulsed erratically, mirroring his disturbed thoughts. He had not slept in days. No Mirai commander had ever faced such a situation. There were no protocols, no historical precedents to follow. "Commander," Jinwu's voice came through the communication system. "Our long-range sensors have detected the reinforcement fleet. They will arrive within 30 hours. 30 hours. Could they hold out that long?" The Thermopylae showed no signs of retreating, despite its extensive damage. "And the human vessel?" Tejo asked. A pause. "Still operational, sir. Their adaptive hull technology continues to compensate for damage. We've never seen anything like it." Tejo returned to the bridge, where Junho sat staring at the tactical display as if it might suddenly make sense. "Sir," Junho said without looking up, "I've analyzed every moment of this battle. Their tactics, their technology. None of it matches our intelligence reports. It's as if—" He hesitated. "As if what, officer?" "As if they knew we were coming. As if they've been preparing for us specifically." The idea sent a chill through Tejo. How could they have known? The collective had been careful to conceal their approach, as they always did. As he contemplated this disturbing possibility, new alerts sounded across the bridge. "The human vessel is moving again," reported Jinwu. They're targeting our primary shield generators." Tejo watched, as the Thermopylae, battered but unbroken, turned to face his command ship directly. For the first time in his life, Commander Tejo of the mighty Mirai Collective felt something alien to his species: doubt. He opened a channel to his superiors at the heart of Mirai territory. "This is Commander Tejo of the Conquest Fleet. We require immediate reinforcements. We have encountered unexpected resistance." The admission felt like acid in his mouth. But as he watched the determined advance of the human warship, Tejo faced a reality no Mirai had confronted in 300 years. They might not be the most advanced species in the galaxy after all. The air on the command deck felt heavy, thick with tension and the acrid smell of overheated circuits. Commander Tejo stood with his back to his officers, staring at the tactical display where the USS Thermopylae maintained its defensive position. 4 days of continuous battle had left both sides wounded, but the impossible truth remained. A single human warship had decimated the most powerful fleet in known space. "Commander," a soft voice broke the silence, "I have something you need to see." Tejo turned to find Intelligence Officer Sunmi standing at attention, her uniform wrinkled from days without rest. Dark circles ringed her eyes, but there was an intensity in her gaze that caught his attention. "What is it, officer?" he asked, aware that every ear on the bridge was trained on their conversation. The remaining crew needed something, anything to make sense of their shattered reality. Sunmi held up a data tablet. "I've been monitoring human communications since the battle began. Our translation algorithms finally broke through their encryption protocols an hour ago." This was the first good news in days. Taiho gestured toward his private briefing room. "Show me." Once inside, Sunmi activated the holographic display. Fragments of intercepted messages floated in the air between them, translated into Mirai script. "Most of their communications are standard battle reports," she explained, swiping through data streams. "But this transmission caught my attention. It was sent from the Thermopylae to what appears to be their central command." She highlighted one message, enlarging it for better visibility. Taiho leaned forward, reading aloud, "Operation Tripwire proceeding as projected. Thermopylae systems performing within expected parameters against Mirai weapons technology. Recommend." "For advancing to Phase 2, flagship Prometheus stands ready," Taiho frowned. "Tripwire, what does that mean?" Sunmi's fingers danced across the tablet, pulling up another intercept. This message was sent in response. It clarifies everything. The new message appeared beside the first. "Thermopylae, maintain position. Your mission remains unchanged. Assess enemy capabilities while revealing minimum necessary human defense technology. Prometheus and the Third Fleet will remain in standby position. Remember, the Thermopylae is expendable, the information is not." Taiho read the message twice, his mind struggling to process its implications. "Expendable? They consider this vessel expendable?" "Sir," Sunmi said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I believe we've been deceived about the true nature of human military capabilities." She pulled up another display, this one showing detailed schematics of the Thermopylae based on their sensor readings. "I cross-referenced these specifications with historical data we gathered from their outer colonies. The Thermopylae class warship entered service in their fleet over 70 years ago." Taiho blinked in confusion. "That's impossible. Their technology has been significantly upgraded." "Yes," Sunmi finished for him. "But the base design, the hull configuration, the fundamental architecture, it's old, Commander, very old by their standards. They sent an obsolete ship to face us," Taiho said slowly, the realization dawning on him with horrifying clarity. "But why?" Sunmi's expression was grim. "They positioned their obsolete vessel as both test and message. They're assessing our capabilities, while revealing only what they must of their own technology." The implications were staggering. If the Thermopylae represented outdated human military technology, what did their current generation of warships look like? "There's more," Sunmi continued, pulling up additional data. "I've been analyzing their historical archives from the colonial databases we accessed before the battle. Humans have a unique developmental history." Files appeared on screen, historical records of human conflicts spanning centuries, wars that engulfed entire continents, battles that claimed millions of lives, weapons that evolved from crude explosives to nuclear devastation in just a few decades. "Unlike most species we've encountered, humans didn't unify before reaching space," Sunmi explained. "They continued fighting among themselves, even as they established their first colonies. Their military technology didn't develop in response to new external threats. It evolved through centuries of internal conflicts." Taiho sank into a chair, the weight of this revelation pressing down on him. The Mirai had always assumed technological advancement followed a predictable path: internal unification, then space exploration, then eventual contact with other species. It was how the collective itself had developed, and every conquered. Species had followed a similar pattern, but humans had taken a different path entirely. "Sir," Sunmi said, interrupting his thoughts, "there's someone else you should speak with." She opened the door to reveal a young tactical officer waiting outside. Taiho recognized him as Do Hyun, one of the newest additions to the fleet, brilliant but inexperienced. "Forgive the interruption, Commander," Do Hyun said with a respectful bow, "but Officer Sunmi believed my analysis might be relevant." Taiho gestured for him to continue. I've been studying human historical battle tactics, Do-hyun explained, pulling up his own data on the display. There's a pattern that emerges across their entire military history, something unique to their species. Images appeared, ancient warriors holding mountain passes against vastly superior forces, primitive sailing vessels engaging entire fleets, ground battles where outnumbered soldiers defied overwhelming odds. They glorify it, Do-hyun said, his voice filled with both awe and concern. Throughout their history, humans celebrate what they call last stands, battles where small forces face impossible odds. They've built entire cultural mythologies around these events. He highlighted several historical names: Thermopylae, Alamo, Cameroni, Wisna. The vessel we're fighting is named after one of these battles, Do-hyun pointed out. 300 soldiers against an army of thousands. Tae-ho stared at the historical records. They celebrate defeat. No, Commander, Do-hyun corrected. They celebrate defiance in the face of certain defeat. There's a difference, one that I believe is crucial to understanding what we're facing. The young officer stepped closer to the display, his expression grave. Most species we've encountered surrender when defeat is mathematically certain. It's logical. It preserves lives and resources. But humans, he paused, searching for the right words. Humans sometimes fight hardest when victory seems impossible. They view overwhelming odds as a challenge, not a deterrent. The room fell silent as Tae-ho absorbed this information. Everything he knew about warfare, about conquest, about how intelligent species behaved, none of it applied to humans. We've awakened something dangerous, Sunmi said quietly. Something that's been preparing for us while we believed we were approaching an easy conquest. Tae-ho returned to the bridge, his mind racing with new understanding. He looked at the view screen, where the Thermopylae hovered, battered, damaged, but unbroken. Not their best ship, not their newest technology, just a test, a message. Commander, Jin Woo approached with fresh reports. Our reinforcements will arrive within 10 hours. Should we continue the engagement? Tae-ho stared at the human vessel, seeing it with new eyes. No, he said finally. Maintain defensive positions only. No further offensive actions. Jin Woo looked startled. Sir? The humans could have destroyed us completely by now, Tae-ho explained, the truth of it settling in his chest like a cold weight. They've been testing us, measuring our capabilities, revealing only what they needed to. He turned to his communications officer. Send a message to the approaching reinforcement fleet. Alert status maximum and... He hesitated, then added words no Mirai commander had ever spoken before. Prepare for possible diplomatic contact. As the orders were relayed, Tae-ho returned to the view screen, studying the human ship with newfound respect and trepidation. For 3 centuries, the Mirai collective had conquered worlds with ease, never facing a species that could truly challenge. Sadhma. That era, Tae-ho realized, had just ended. The Mirai reinforcement fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation, 35 world ships arranged in the traditional conquest pattern that had broken the will of countless civilizations. Their massive hulls gleamed in the light of an unfamiliar sun as they approached the battle zone, where Commander Tae-ho's decimated forces waited. Fleet Admiral Gi-won stood on the command deck of the flagship Inevitable Dominance, his face betraying no emotion as he surveyed the tactical display. Where 12 world ships should have been, only 2 remained, both showing significant damage. Unacceptable, he muttered, turning to his senior staff. How could a primitive species cause such a devastation? Before anyone could respond, the communications officer called out, Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Commander Tae-ho's vessel. Tae-ho's face appeared on screen, haggard and worn. The neural implants at his temples pulsed erratically, a sign of extreme stress rarely seen in Mirai commanders. Admiral, Tae-ho began, before you proceed with standard conquest protocols, there's critical information you must... I've reviewed your preliminary reports, Gi-won interrupted. Your assessment of human military capabilities was clearly flawed. We will correct your failure immediately. Tae-ho's expression hardened. Admiral, with respect, the humans will be conquered like all others, Gi-won finished. Resume your position in the fleet. We attack in 30 minutes. The screen went dark before Tai-Ho could respond. Gi-won turned back to the tactical display, already planning the distribution of forces for the assault on human territory. "Sir," his tactical officer said hesitantly, "new contact detected approaching from deeper in human space." A small blip appeared on the tactical display, moving at incredible speed toward the assembled Mirai fleet. Initial scans classified it as a diplomatic vessel, smaller than a warship, but larger than a standard transport. "They're sending diplomats," Gi-won laughed. "How predictable. Prepare to—" "Admiral," the sensor officer interrupted, his voice rising with alarm. "I'm detecting unusual energy signatures from the human territory. Multiple signatures. Hundreds of them." The tactical display updated, showing a vast array of energy readings just beyond sensor range. The pattern was unmistakable, a massive fleet holding position, waiting. "Impossible," Gi-won whispered, echoing the word that had become all too familiar to Tai-Ho over the past days. The diplomatic vessel approached, sending a standard greeting on all frequencies. "Mirai Collective, this is the Earth Diplomatic. Corps vessel Olive Branch requesting permission to dock with your flagship for peace negotiations." Gi-won stood frozen, centuries of Mirai protocol warring with the unprecedented situation before him. After a long moment, he nodded to his communications officer. "Grant permission, alert security." An hour later, Gi-won, Tai-Ho, and the senior Mirai commanders gathered in the flagship's conference chamber. The room had never been used for its designed purpose, negotiations with other species, because the Mirai had never negotiated. They conquered. The doors slid open to reveal 3 human representatives. In the lead walked a distinguished older man, wearing a crisp white uniform adorned with gold insignia. His hair was silver at the temples, his posture perfect despite his apparent age. "Admiral Gi-won," the human said with a slight bow. "I am Admiral Ji-ho of the Earth Defense Force. Thank you for agreeing to this meeting." Gi-won did not return the gesture. "Your ship fought well," he said coldly. "But one impressive vessel does not change the inevitable outcome." Ji-ho smiled faintly. "The Thermopylae. It performed admirably, yes, but it's hardly representative of our current fleet capabilities." He placed a small device on the conference table. It projected a holographic display showing the energy signatures the Mirai sensors had detected, but in much greater detail. Hundreds of vessels, arranged in precise defensive formations. "That is our third fleet," Ji-ho explained. "One of 7 similar battle groups currently in service. The Thermopylae, as I believe your intelligence has discovered, is one of our older vessel designs, roughly equivalent to what you might call a training ship." Murmurs spread through the Mirai commanders. Tai-Ho shot a meaningful glance at Gi-won, who struggled to maintain his composure. "If you intended to destroy us," Gi-won challenged, "why send a diplomatic vessel?" Ji-ho's expression remained pleasant but firm. "Because we prefer not to destroy intelligent species when alternatives exist. Humanity has evolved beyond the need for conquest, Admiral. We explore, we learn, we grow, and yes, when necessary, we fight. But we do not conquer." He manipulated the holographic display, showing a map of the galaxy with clear boundary lines. "We propose the establishment of defined territories with a demilitarized zone between our peoples. A simple arrangement that allows both civilizations to thrive without conflict." "The collective does not establish boundaries," Gi-won stated flatly. "We expand. It is our purpose." Ji-ho nodded thoughtfully. "I understand. 3 centuries of uninterrupted conquest would certainly shape your cultural identity." He leaned forward slightly. "But consider the alternative, Admiral. You now face a species with military technology that clearly surpasses your own, a species that has devoted its entire history to perfecting the art of warfare." His voice remained calm, almost conversational. "Your choice is simple. Establish boundaries and explore a new form of existence, or face a protracted war against an enemy who thrives on adversity. The very concept of impossible odds is romanticized in our culture. Each defeat only strengthens our resolve." The conference chamber fell silent as the Mirai commanders processed these words. For a species that had never known defeat, never faced a superior force, the concept was almost incomprehensible. "This is absurd," one commander finally said. "We should crush them now while—" "While what?" Tahoe interrupted, rising from his seat. "While they allow us to. Did you not hear what I reported? Did you not see what one of their training ships did to our fleet?" He turned to Giwan. "Admiral, for the first time in our history we must consider an alternative to conquest." The words hung in the air like a physical presence. Never in 3 centuries had such a statement been uttered by a Mirai officer. Over the next 12 hours, heated debates raged throughout the Mirai fleet. For the first time, the collective experienced internal division. Younger officers like Yejun advocated passionately for peaceful contact, arguing that more could be learned from humans as allies than as conquered subjects. "Their technological achievements alone warrant study," Yejun insisted during one particularly heated exchange. "Their adaptive hull technology, their phase-lock systems, these advances could benefit the collective far more than simply consuming their worlds." Older commanders clung to tradition, insisting that conquest was the only path forward, but doubt had taken root, a sensation so foreign to the Mirai that they had no cultural framework to process it. 3 days later, in a ceremony, broadcast throughout both fleets, Admiral Giwan and Admiral Jiho signed what would become known as the Thermopylae Accords. The document established clear territorial boundaries and a substantial demilitarized zone between human and Mirai space. As the human representatives prepared to depart, Jiho paused beside Tai-Ho, who had been instrumental in facilitating the negotiations. "Commander," Jiho said quietly, "I believe you more than any other Mirai understand what nearly happened here." Tai-Ho nodded solemnly. "We came very close to extinction." Jiho's expression softened. "Perhaps. But now we have the opportunity for something much more valuable than conquest or defense, genuine cultural exchange." As they walked toward the docking bay, Jiho added casually, "You know, the Mirai aren't the only advanced civilization we've encountered. There are species deeper in the galactic core that make both our peoples seem primitive by comparison." Tai-Ho stopped walking. "What?" Jiho smiled enigmatically. "Let's just say there may come a time when an alliance between humans and Mirai proves beneficial to both our civilizations. The galaxy is larger and far more dangerous than either of us fully appreciates." With those words lingering in the air, Jiho boarded his vessel and departed, leaving Tai-Ho standing in the docking bay, staring out at the stars with new understanding. Later that evening, Tai-Ho returned to his quarters and opened his personal log, a practice common among Mirai commanders. He stared at the blank screen for several minutes before beginning to record. "Today marks the end of the Mirai Collective as we have known it for 3 centuries, he said slowly, "and perhaps the beginning of something greater. For the first time in our recorded history, we have encountered a species worthy of respect rather than conquest." He paused, considering his next words carefully. "Future generations may look back on this moment as our greatest defeat, but I believe they will eventually recognize it as our most important evolution. The humans have taught us a lesson we didn't know we needed to learn. That true strength lies not in the ability to conquer worlds, but in knowing when conquest itself has become obsolete." As the Mirai fleet began its long journey home, carrying news that would forever change their civilization, a single human warship, the battered but unbowed USS Thermopylae, maintained its vigilant position at the edge of human space, a quiet sentinel guarding the dawn of a new age in galactic history.